everyone, welcome back to Indie Homestead. I'm Brittany.
I'm Chris.
So today we thought we'd bring you guys along to help us plan our permaculture food forest. We're going to be using the mentality or method of plant guilds and kind of applying some of the other knowledge not related to plant guilds to it and kind of mixing it all together, and we'll see what happens. We honestly have no idea what this is going to look like yet.
What's a plant guild?
Plant guild is when you basically companion plant, right?
Mm-hmm. Plants
together, different types, so trees, bushes, ground cover, berries, all of it.
Basically utilizing plants that have like a symbiotic relationship or beneficial relationship with one another, and avoiding plants that have the opposite effect.
And so that helps with pest control, that helps with disease control, that helps with abundance. It makes each other, like that symbiotic relationship, they grow better in those conditions. And it's just its own little ecosystem where you really don't have to have your hand in it because it's something that naturally occurs.
Right. We're going to try to mimic nature the best we can, but make it plants that benefit us, you know, edible plants.
Mimic nature, but make it cool. And so our goal with this, just like with everything else we do on our property, is to have that permaculture mindset, to make sure it's something that's not only like good for us, but it's self-sustaining and it's good for the environment, and it kind of blends in seamlessly with where we live as well.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself.
Where should we start?
I guess we should lay out like the layers of the food guild.
Okay.
So we can go through that real quick. I guess you could make this as simple or as complex that you want, but basically it consists of one larger species, one tree in the center. So that'd be your canopy layer.
And so for us, that's our sycamore.
That's our sycamore. I think most people wouldn't use a sycamore because it doesn't really give anything.
Yeah.
But that plant's already there. We don't want to take it down. This is the best spot for our food forest right now, so that's where we're going to start.
Okay.
So we've already got that canopy established. Next would be your subcanopy. So these would be like your dwarf fruit trees, dwarf nut trees, that sort of thing. Next would be your shrub layer under the subcanopy, and that would just be your berry bushes and that sort of thing. After the shrub layer would be the forb or herbaceous layer. So that would be stuff like
herbs.
Herbs,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, like chives and mint and things like that. That probably like grow really quickly, that spread really quickly.
It's almost the ground cover layer, which is actually the next layer.
Oh, okay.
The next layer would be ground cover.
And so when we're talking about the ground cover layer, it's supposed to act as like a mulch, act as like a weed suppressant, and to keep things like grass, which in this case would be a weed because we don't want it growing in there.
Right.
Keep it from popping up and thriving in this area. And so different things that are part of the ground cover layer are things like strawberries, which we already have. From what we found, a lot of the things that are ground cover are actually part of the herbaceous layer.
I think there can be some overlap too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting into the details. Typically when you're looking at all these different layers of a food forest, there are other layers below the surface and vertically and things to do with water as well. We're not as concerned with those things because, one, we don't have water. We don't have any like running water streams or anything like that through our property. We're not really interested at this point in implementing any vertical type of growth.
That'd be stuff like grapes and that sort of thing, but we've already got that in another part of the...
Yeah, and this will be done over years. I mean, who knows, at some point we may implement stuff like that. And as far as like the fungal layer goes, we feel like it's probably thriving on its own, and we're not trying to implement...
Right, and I know you can buy like inoculants, you can buy different fungal whatever.
Yeah.
Inoculate the soil, but you know, we're not gonna mess with that in this video.
We're not there yet.
No.
One step at a time, or 5. So now that we have that covered, let's talk about what we already have there. We've already kind of mentioned, as of right now, in our current plot where we want the food forest, we've got a sycamore tree, which is the canopy layer, and then we have a couple strawberry plants and some raspberries. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, and some chives. But that's pretty much it, yeah.
We have tons of weeds growing in there. We dumped some mulch to get the process going, but it's looking like a mess. And it's right next to the garden, which may end up being absorbed by this food forest. It depends on how we feel as we start creating. My thought is that it really should be, and I was doing some research on food forest, and it says that you want the tall, like canopy layer to be on the north side of the food forest because of where the sun is. But on the south side, you want things that do need partial sun or full sun, which means it does kind of have to move this way because a lot of these plants need some sun.
We were planning on expanding and pushing it back that way anyway, so this works out pretty well.
Yeah, it works out well. Wish we could say we planned it. We're planning it now!
Yeah!
Okay, so now we get to do some of the fun part, which is picking some of the things we're interested in. And so the main thing is being aware of our zone.
Right. We're zone 6A.
Zone 6A.
We're in the Midwest. We can grow a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Mostly not like citrus, but everything else we should be okay with.
Right. And then the key here, besides knowing our zone, is also making sure it's something we will actually eat. We don't want to just grow something for the fun of it. We want it to be functional.
Sure.
We have decided on a few things that we're interested in looking into. Do you want to rattle off the list?
As far as fruit trees go, I love apple, I love pear, and I love cherries. So those are the big three that I'd like to have.
Same. I'm really excited about cherries too because I grew up with cherry trees.
What about plum?
I say yes to plum too.
So those would be our 4.
Okay.
And then, what about nut trees?
Not walnut.
Not walnut.
we hate walnut trees. We have a background with.
We have a background.
we have bad blood with walnut trees. The ones we decided on were almond and pecan.
Yeah, almond is the one I care the most about.
Same.
Pecan, and then what else did we say?
I mean, you mentioned hazelnut because we could make Nutella.
Yeah.
Do you like Nutella?
It's okay. But you could make like a hazelnut spread if you didn't want to do like peanut butter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm just trying to look at different stuff.
Yeah, no. I just thought
so maybe hazelnut. Writing it down. We also want to keep in mind that some plants require a companion plant to fertilize.
Exactly, which is why in these guilds, a lot of times there's like 4 of them. 4 of the same type of tree or whatever.
Yeah. And some highly specialized trees cannot pollinate the same with the highly specialized tree. They have to go back to like Granny Smith or one of the older apple varieties will pollinate.
So we're gonna have to be really aware of what we select.
So we've got our canopy, we've got a list of subcanopy plants. I think what we need to do is start writing stuff down on paper and like plotting it out.
Okay.
And then once we have that plotted out, we can go a little deeper and do like the shrub layer and the herbaceous layer and that sort of thing. So
okay, cool.
I think we're gonna have the sycamore. We're gonna do like a linear canopy, not just like canopy and everything spreads out around it. We're gonna have a canopy line, and then the auxiliary plants on the side.
Yeah. So the sycamore is on the, we're calling it the top. It's the north part.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll have in a line below it a nut tree, either pecan or almond, and then another nut tree.
Exactly.
And then kind of like on the outsides in a vertical line are the fruit trees. And so when we're searching for these trees and like a companion tree to pollinate each other, we have to make sure that they're blooming at the same time so that they actually do cross-pollinate. And it looks like a lot of these trees, they actually have to be different varieties. So far we have our 2 cherry trees on the very north end of this linear plot, and then moving south or down, we've got the sycamore tree as our like larger canopy tree. Moving down the middle in that line is 2 nut trees. So one will be almond, one will be pecan. And then on either side of those, starting below the sycamore tree, it's pear trees, plum trees, and apple trees.
Now that we have our trees selected, we need to come up with guilds for these. So we're gonna pick some plants that are kind of companion plants to these, and each tree is gonna have its own little friends.
And so after mountains and mountains of research, we're basically identifying good companion plants for these trees / bushes. I don't know that we'll use every single plant that we found, but we have a nice list to draw
And I'm
from.
sure it's not like an exclusive list, you know what I mean?
This is not all-encompassing by any means. Just to read off kind of like the things we'll be choosing from. For apple trees, we have chives, garlic, lemon balm, mustard, watercress. For the pear trees, we have lavender, dandelion, borage, clover, mustard, watercress, foxglove, wild garlic, chives, onions, and leeks, as well as just herbs generally. For plums, we have watercress, dill, comfrey, coriander, lavender, and then for cherry trees, we have chives, garlic, lemon balm, mustard, and watercress. For raspberries, we have garlic, chives, watercress, leeks, onions, chamomile, artemisia, and yarrow. For blueberries, we have a couple of herbs, so basil and thyme. And then really we're just looking for plants that make the soil more acidic. So some of the things we found were adding pine needles, thyme, like I already mentioned, mountain laurel, ferns in general, holly, dwarf lilac is something we're considering, as well as strawberries, which are already there. Now what? We've got our canopy, we've got our
Subcanopy. Brush layer.
So, okay, we have to figure out what else goes with this bush layer and where these things are going. I don't know how specific we're going to be able to get at this point. Like, to me, it's like once we get the trees in place, we'll feel where things feel right while we're out there planting. You know, it's going to be hard to do that on paper. So based on all the research we've done and looking at all the companion plants for the different types of trees, dwarf trees that we selected, we kind of made this little layout. It's very much a rough draft.
Right, yeah.
We'll probably end up switching things depending on what's in stock.
Depending on price, because you can run out of money real quick.
So we're going to try to be a little bit creative with that. What you're seeing is the rough outline of what we'd like for it to look like. Whether or not it looks exactly like this, we'll see.
Right.
When is the goal to start planting?
The fruit trees is dead of winter, and then all this other stuff is probably going to be in the spring.
Okay, so it's good that we're planning now, because dead of winter is just a few months away.
Yes.
How do you feel?
I'm excited.
I'm excited too.
I think this is going to be really cool.
And based on what we drew, I feel like it's going to absorb some of the garden. There's just no way that
it will.
So we're pretty much, based on this, if we follow this plan, it sounds like we're going to be moving my garden to a new spot.
But we already have a perfect spot for your garden.
We do. We have a perfect spot, which means we'll be starting again, but that's okay. Like, it won't feel as daunting this time because we've already done it.
So at the north end of the sycamore, we're going to have 2 cherry trees, and one cherry tree is going to have a group of elderberries, the other one is going to have a group of gooseberries, and that will be the shrub layer. The herb layer would be onion and garlic and lemon balm, and the ground cover layer would be watercress and strawberries. And just south of the sycamore, where we have the pear trees, the pear shrub layer would be blackberries and artemisia, and the herb layer would be foxglove, leeks, and mustard, and the ground cover would be bee balm and strawberries.
And just south of that, we have our 2 plum trees. And surrounding the plum trees for the shrub layer would be blueberries and lavender. The herb layer would be dill, coriander, basil, and thyme. And the ground layer would be comfrey and ginger. And then just south of the plum trees are the apple trees, and surrounding the apple trees, our plan is for the shrub layer to be raspberries, the herb layer to be chives, artemisia, and Roman chamomile, and the ground layer to be strawberries and watercress. And we also have to do some cross-checking, so we added some things without making sure that the other things, like, I think we'll just have to do an extended amount of research, but this is just the beginning phase of researching and plotting, seeing how it feels. Also, just to note, we plan on having comfrey probably spread throughout the entire food forest, not just with the plum trees. Comfrey, there's so many benefits to it. One of those being that it's a great green manure. I mean, let's be honest. It probably won't look exactly like this.
Right, this is just a rough draft, a working title, you know what I mean?
We're just kind of like seeing how we feel about the layout that we've created, and so. I
think once we start working on it too, like actually moving dirt around and putting plants in,
we'll be like,
yeah. It's go right out the window.
Hopefully you learned something. We learned a lot. Stay tuned. We'll be documenting the whole process. We'll be sharing the planting and the upkeep and all of that, which will start sometime in the winter. And we would also love to hear from you guys. If you guys have any recommendations or warnings, say don't do that, please let us know. Yeah, we are by no means experts. In fact, we're like brand new. We're learning how the food forest structure, how these plant guilds work. even though it's something we naturally implement in a way, like this permaculture mindset, applying it to this specifically is brand new for us. And so if you have knowledge in this, we definitely want to hear from you. Or if you just want to say hi, that works too.
Job well done.
Yes, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.
Bye. We're both sick.
We are both sick.
We're both sick, but you got the sickness.
We're that thickness. Did not put that on the internet.
Cool. Are those all the layers?
No.
Oh. Oh.
I don't know if
that was aggressive.
I don't even know what a chestnut is.
All I know is that they roast them on an open fire.
And one.
Sorry.
You're fine. I think we'll start getting stuff on. You're looking at me weird.
And then we gotta find your Nutella tree.
If we can't find it, I'm not. That's the third one anyway. Like, you're such a jerk.
I was not expecting that. Just kind of getting some ideas.
Right.
Putting out some feel skis and yeah.
That's pretty good.
That was pretty good.